Welcome to An Awful World, but not awful like you think.
This is the show where we discuss whether we would have discovered important advances in a world exclusively full of Haylies and Libbys. I'm Haylie.
And I'm Libby. And today we're talking about vacations. It's funny like we on vacation. Yeah. Vacations. This is a great topic.
It is.
Because I love vacation.
I wish I was on vacation right now.
Oh, me too. I would stay permanently on vacation if given the option.
100%.
I would not be here. I'll tell you that. So vacations. Let's talk about it before we talk about them in An Awful World.
Okay.
Now, this is one thing where I won't say that vacationing is hella old.
Because it's not.
It's not, but it's older than I thought. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
100 BC.
Mm-hmm.
We have like elites. They're taking a little break on the coast, just chilling out, laying out in the sun, getting in the water, whatever. That's probably like our earliest quote unquote vacation type situation. So that's, 100 BC. But then like there's really not a lot between that and like the medieval times, especially. Just like,
was 100 BC, was that the Romans?
I think so.
Okay.
I didn't write it down, but yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because what I saw was like the Romans started traveling because they had conquered all these places.
Yeah, and they're like, let's see them.
Well, they were like, well, you can go visit them because they have all the modern comforts of Rome because we've conquered them.
Interesting. Huh.
So they were like, it's just like being home, but somewhere new. So I was like,
that's so weird.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting.
It's kind of like a hotel chain.
Yeah.
Like
please stay at the Hilton Rome.
Exactly. Because they're like, it's just like being at any other Hilton. All your local comforts.
And we will have a continental breakfast.
Exactly.
Between 7 and 9 a.m. So, there wasn't really a lot of travel like between that and medieval times, except for religious reasons. Like if you did like a pilgrimage.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that really can be counted as a vacation. It's traveling. Let me put it that way.
Yes. They're like, it's a break. It's a travel.
It's a sabbatical from my regular life.
Yes.
But is it vacation in the way that we think now? No. Not at all. And then also like trade. That is something that people traveled for. And then the worst of all, war. People traveled for war, which makes sense, right? Yes. But also, again, like medieval times, bad shit is happening, okay? The bubonic plague is tearing through the entire Western world of Europe.
Yeah.
Not the United States because we weren't here. So,
people were here.
People were here, but not, the plague was not here.
Yeah.
So that's all like, people aren't going anywhere. People are staying in their communities. They're doing their thing. And the only reason they're leaving is because of their religion, to do trade or to go to war. Mm-hmm. But then this lovely thing called the Renaissance happens. Ooh. And we all love the Renaissance, or at least I do, because the Renaissance, it's like great enlightenment,
Yes.
Where art really takes off in all kinds of forms, like theater, painting, architecture, all this stuff.
If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. All right. Baroque. Do you see what she did there? So because of the Renaissance, people started to become really interested in art and history and like other like, social, classical learning type things. So they started traveling to see those things, to see the art and the architecture and whatever. And that is like, as we start to creep towards a more modern idea of vacation, of like going somewhere with a specific intent to see something. But the modern vacation doesn't come around until like the 1800s. Like vacation as we know it today.
Okay.
So that was due to the Industrial Revolution. It's so many, like, again, it's always like the Renaissance and then the Industrial Revolution changed things, right? I guess there's a reason it's called a revolution because then we had like more people in cities.
Yes.
So, you know, people are working in factories and cities. They're living in cities and in urban areas instead of, you know, suburban areas or rural areas. And they are working normal jobs now instead of like, you know, how we were kind of talking about a couple episodes ago, like these communities of people of like, you know, they're contributing something, but it wasn't necessarily like, and you do this one thing for the village. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but now we have that. People start going to work and they're doing their factory jobs. And then they are, you know, they earn money and then they take a break from it.
Well, and that's when like the labor movements really start.
Yes.
And with the labor movements, they were crazy, you know, but we get unions that way and people get weekends and they get paid time off and things like that, which here in the States becomes really big because, because before any of that, we had a lot of Puritans here who didn't believe in taking time off.
Leisure.
Yes, at all. So they got one day off a week and that was Sunday for, you know, the Sabbath.
Right.
And that was, unless it was for religion, you were not allowed to stop working.
Wow.
So that's once we get past the Puritans into like the industrialization here in the States that the labor movements, like, we get vacation.
Really starts to take off.
Yeah, because it was so drastically different before
and that. I mean, that makes sense, right? And I do get in like a lot of early societies, like it doesn't make sense for you, you know, to just do one thing that contributes to the society or the community. It's like, you know, you have your own farm and you do this and that, and then you'll trade eggs for, you know, whatever with your next door neighbor. You know what I mean? Like it just, you didn't have a job. Your job was to like tend to your home basically and stay alive.
Yes.
So also sort of, you know, in the 1800s is when transportation really starts to become so different. We get railroads in the 1800s. That makes it easier for people to travel long distances. And we also have steamships. Yeah. So people are able to journey like pretty far without, you know, super like great expense or, you know, it used to be months of sailing and now we can go much faster with these steamships, that sort of thing. So then, like you said, you know, we start getting labor unions and all of that. And there comes this concept of free time, which just was not considered to be a thing before. So by the 1900s, there are paid vacation laws in both the United States and Europe. And then we also get cars, and then we get planes, and then we build highways. And so all of this stuff at all the same time makes it so much easier for people to travel.
And with cars, we get the 40-hour work week.
Yes, because Henry Ford. Yes.
Which everybody shits on him for that.
Yeah.
And but before that, if you were working 6 days a week.
Right. You were working more than 40 hours.
A 40-hour work week sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
And there are bigger things to shit on Henry Ford for.
Absolutely.
You know, the fact that he was like buddies with Hitler.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Is a bigger deal than the fact that now we have to work 40 hours a week.
Right. So pick a better way to pick on Henry Ford. Yeah. Quit your whining and crying about your 40-hour work week.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding, because I always bitch about it too.
I mean, 100%. However, I would rather have 40 hours than 6 full days.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree.
I'm not like terribly mad about that.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, we get cars, we get the 40-hour work week, we get weekends, we have planes. It's just getting a lot easier for people to travel.
Yes.
So now it's like the transportation aspect is there, but so is the interest in things, you know, in seeing things. Then we come up with more grand ideas like national parks and figure out people will travel hundreds of miles to see a national park. They'll also travel to go to a theme park and ride a roller coaster. Like, so all these things start to pop up. Like it really starts to drive this, like this type of, you know, leisure time, about we're gonna get in a car and we're gonna drive somewhere.
Yeah. And we have like TVs so you can see these things, and not just radios to be like, there's a lovely park if you drive 800 miles in the United States. It's more like, look, you can see, here are videos of the Grand Canyon. Right. And people are like, oh, shit,
that's amazing. Cool. I want to go see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, post World War II, it becomes a shift to international travel, which I think is interesting, that people were mostly just like traveling within their own countries. Well, I shouldn't say people. I should say Americans, because our nation is so large geographically that it's like, not a lot of people in our nation have been to every single state before.
No, it's insane.
Yeah.
This is something that I will say Americans really get shit on for, and you can shit on us for a lot of things.
Yeah.
This is not one of them, is that we're not super well traveled.
How could we be?
Because our continent, our
is
country,
our nation.
Yes, our country is the continent.
Right.
I mean,
Canada.
Plus Canada.
Right.
And is Mexico technically North American, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was like, it could be.
Is it Central America?
Yeah. But because I think here in the States, we consider it Central America a lot, even though it is technically part of
the North American continent.
Yeah. But if you think about it, I mean, the United States itself is a very large portion. And so the state of Indiana, where we live, is the same size as Ireland.
Right.
We are the size of a country, a European country. And that's how
it's easy for us to go all around the state, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm sure both you and I have seen a lot of places in the state of Indiana.
Yes.
Because it's easy to do that.
Yes.
But it's not easy to get to, Washington State on the other side of the country.
Exactly.
That's a 4-hour flight. Yeah. And also just like Europe especially is so different, because it's a lot of small countries all right next to each other.
Yes. So they are like all of Europe is like United States.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what people don't get.
Right.
Plus they have subways and
they have really
rail
good
systems,
public transportation.
Yes, that are very, very fast.
Because it's small there, so they don't use cars to travel as much as we do.
Exactly.
A lot of places in the United States, I mean, just for the benefit of anyone listening who's maybe not from here, but I don't know if that's happening or not.
Every once in a while it does.
Yeah, every now and then. But if you're listening and you don't live in the United States, there are so many states in which you could not survive without a car. Indiana is one of them. We have a very, very poor public transportation system via buses. We don't have any sort of subway or underground, railway system or anything like that. No Amtrak, nothing. So a lot of states are like that. And even states where there are some good public transportation systems, for instance, New York, that's only in the city. You leave the city and you need a car.
Yeah.
Like, you will need a car to go to the Hamptons. Or whatever, the subway doesn't run up there. Like, that's just not how it works. So I agree that it's easy to say like that we're not well traveled, because we aren't, because it costs thousands of dollars for us to fly somewhere that's not the United States. Well, and it costs thousands of dollars to fly somewhere that is the United States.
Like, just to go from here to Florida costs usually over $300.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the time of the year, you can get it for cheaper, or depending on the flight that you take. But there are some times of the year where from Indiana to Florida, which is 6 states away.
Yeah.
That it costs like over $300 per person.
Right.
And sometimes that does not include a checked bag.
Right.
Depending on how long you're staying and that kind of stuff. And, so a lot of people in the States will drive.
Right.
And I've driven to Florida.
Yeah.
I have too. Things like that.
But that still takes, a long time.
Yeah.
16 hours probably.
Yeah. But I've been to California once for work.
Yeah.
And I've had layovers in Texas.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I've not been to Texas. And there's a lot really technically in the States, Indiana is the Midwest. But what I would consider the Midwest, what's actually middle and west.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I have not been to,
which is just the West.
Right. Is just the West.
Yeah.
But like
a lot of those
technically,
states.
you know, I haven't been to the majority of those states because
Wyoming, Montana.
Yeah. Because I mean, A, what's going to take me there?
Right.
And B, it's just so
it's far.
It's so far.
It's very, very far.
And it's so expensive.
Yes.
So why would I do that? Where like in Europe, because they're so small, they're built so like compact and there's so much history there. The States,
we don't have that.
Right. Like there's history and there's Native American history and things like that. But a lot of that has been removed.
Yeah.
And so.
And even so, like, you know, Native American communities, they like the kind of stuff that they built, like to live in and all of that. It wasn't like architecture like we think of it today. It's not.
Correct.
You know, it's made out of very like, I don't know how to explain this. Like out of materials that aren't meant to like withstand, you know, 100 years or whatever.
Right.
Whereas like you go to Europe and it's like we're using stone and, you know, all this stuff and that stuff's still going to be there, you know, 500 years from now. We don't have that in the United States because we're not that old.
Right.
Like we're not even 250 years old.
Right.
So
the stuff that you're like looking at here is like,
oh, that's brand new.
Exactly. Like nothing super exciting.
Cool. Yeah.
You know, whereas over there, like you can't like spit without hitting something historic. Ancient, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's so much easier to just be like, wow, look at all this stuff. And I can travel here by train for 30 euros on the weekend.
Yeah. And
you
stay
know,
for a day and then go home tomorrow.
Right.
Like that's just, it's so easy for them to do that sort of thing, which is really cool and I'm jealous of.
Yes.
Because I want to be able to just like, what do you say we pop over to Italy for the weekend? Like, yes is the answer. Absolutely.
I just got my Irish passport in the mail and I tell Ty all the time that someday when we live in Ireland,
pop right over there.
We will be popping over to wherever.
Yeah.
Because
check
even
it out.
By plane, like a plane costs like
puddle jump
60 euros to go anywhere else in Europe.
Right.
And like, you have to pay for your checked bag, but if you're just going for a weekend, you don't need a checked bag.
You don't need a checked bag.
What would you be doing?
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the Europeans for that.
Yeah.
But I understand why our country is not like that.
Right.
So,
but you know, they did try to do railways here and then they just kind of gave up.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, we still have a lot of railways.
They're just not used.
They're
like
not
that.
passenger railways.
Right. They're all cargo.
That's how we move. Yeah, exactly. It's how we move cargo, that and semi trucks. So, I mean, even like any kind of quote unquote cheap transportation that we get here is like a Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
And it's still going to cost you a lot of money. And nobody wants to be on a Greyhound bus for 15 hours with a bunch of strangers.
Not for $200. They don't.
No.
You know, if you're going to pay $30, fine.
Then all right, fine. I'll suck it up and do it. Right.
But that's not the case.
No, it definitely isn't.
You know,
so I don't know why after World War II there was a move towards globalization. Excuse me, and like
probably because people came home and were like, "Oh my god, all these places are so cool and they're so beautiful." And planes were a thing.
That's true,
not just for war.
Yeah, that for actual travel.
And according to every old person I have ever spoken to, planes used to be such a luxury. You dressed up to get on a plane.
They served
on
you a
full meal on a plane.
Yeah,
you know, like.
No, now the experience has gone down and the price has gone up.
Exactly.
It's truly something.
I know.
Honestly. But yeah, I mean, you're probably right that people came back from war and were like, it's actually really pretty here and there's a lot of cool stuff and I'd like to see it. And
They're probably like, I would love to go there when people aren't being brutally murdered.
Yes.
And love to show you what I saw.
Not the horrible things I saw.
They're like
the good things.
They're like, but actually, in these occupied towns,
they're actually really pretty.
There's actually a lot of neat stuff that I did on the weekend. I'd love to show you.
Well, also at that time, the middle class is growing significantly.
Because even though like all of this has happened and it's like World War II and all of this, it's still only for the elite.
Yes.
You had to have money to do this kind of travel.
Yeah. It's not just an issue of like, did you have the time to do it anymore?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the middle class like really emerges after the 1940s and after the war is over. And so, yeah, I think that definitely contributes to sort of the whole like, you know, family vacation and like, it's the Cleavers and they're taking a road trip to somewhere or whatever. And now we're completely in an age of like global travel. Like that is, I don't want to say it's easy to do, but
it's definitely not.
It's not, but it's easier than it was
comparatively.
Before.
Yes.
Right. So, and the experience is completely changed by the internet. You can get on the internet and buy a plane ticket right now. And
you could
drive straight to the airport and get on the plane right now. You could do that if you wanted to.
Yeah. You may not go exactly where you wanted to go.
Right. But that has really changed a lot of things about travel and vacationing and whatever. But something else that I think is maybe worth mentioning, I just finished, we like to talk about John Green sometimes. I just finished John Green's new book about tuberculosis.
Everything is tuberculosis.
Yes. Shout out John Green. It was a very, very good book. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. But he, talks about, tuberculosis is consumption. And so people, especially wealthy people, were told by doctors like, oh, you need to move, out of the city and to the coast where the air is, salty and warm and whatever. And I think that probably to some extent like contributed to this idea of like, the like elite wealthy people like live on the coast and, near
100%.
water and all of that. Whereas that necessarily wasn't a thing prior to that of like, you're taking a trip there for this specific reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And I was thinking when I was doing my like research, I was thinking about the movie Christopher Robin.
Oh, really?
I was. And
the Fox one?
The Fox one?
Oh, Christopher Robin.
Oh, that's Robin Hood.
Robin Hood. My brain is, wow. Yes. Sorry, go on.
Christopher Robin.
I'm familiar.
The live action.
Yes.
And how...
Forgive me.
How they sell luggage. And so at the end, he's kind of like, you don't just have to sell luggage to rich people. Like, families travel too. And like, you can sell that. And like, they could go for a weekend to the beach and things like that. And so all of a sudden they're like, oh my God,
it's a whole
regular
new...
people would probably like to go to the beach. Oh my God. And they like, it's like people never thought of that all of a sudden. And it's really sad because until like you said, like after World War II, the 40s, all of a sudden people who regular old people are like, you know what?
We should go on vacation.
Like to go somewhere that's not my house or work or the grocery store.
Yes. And I definitely think the 1950s, like especially shaped that in so many ways of like the whole going to the beach thing. That was not a thing.
No.
Going to the beach or like having a beach vacation was not a thing.
No, but I would like my doctor to write me a note saying you need to go to the beach.
Yeah, you need to go sit in some salty air.
Yeah.
Drink some frozen drinks.
You medically need to go to the ocean.
Float in the water. It's what you need.
It's
for
what you
sure.
Need. It's what you need.
For sure. Yeah, I just don't think that was a thing like even 100 years ago that people like did a lot as like a vacation activity,
which sucks.
I know, because when we think of vacation today, that's the first thing we think of is beach, or at least in my mind.
See, it is not the first thing I think of.
Really?
Because that's not the type of vacation I want.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter what I want. I think it's more about what I grew up doing. Yeah,
I grew up not doing vacation.
Okay, that's really sad. I'm sorry.
It was. I had one vacation until college.
Wow.
And that was in the 3rd grade. And it was only because my grandma was married to a pilot. And so we went to Disney World. And it was the most miserable trip I've ever been on in my entire life. My mom's husband grew up in a family of farmers.
Yeah.
They did not believe that children should go on vacation. They believed that family vacations shouldn't exist. So my mom and her husband went on vacations without me.
Oh, that's so mean. I'm so sorry.
And so, we had the one vacation. It was super miserable. We never did it again. And my dad worked constantly. So like we didn't do vacation. And I was only with him on the weekends. So he was like, no, she's fine. She doesn't need vacation.
Yeah.
So like I went on spring break in college and that was nice. And then Ty and I travel.
Yeah.
But I also think because of that is probably why I am the way I am. I'm a very type A personality.
Yeah.
So, and I don't like to sit still for super long. So I don't want to just sit at the beach. I get bored. But also I think part of it is like, if I'm going somewhere, when's the next time I'm going to ever be able to go back to this place?
Right.
So I have to see every little thing.
Yeah.
So like when we go on vacation, there is an itinerary. We are up at the crack of dawn. We are not in our beds until like after 11 p.m. Bed, like the hotel room is strictly just to like sleep for like 6 hours. And then you are up and at it again. I travel with like a jumbo bottle of Tylenol because you will be sore. You will be tired. You are not drinking a ton because you got to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And you will see all of whatever city or country or whatever we are in. And if you don't like to travel that way, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
that's just how you travel.
But that is how I travel, and that is how my husband travels.
My best friend is like that, where she is very, she does the itinerary and all of that, and there has to be kind of like some sort of activity or event every day. Mm-hmm. I don't mind that sometimes, but other times I do just want to be like, well, I don't know, let's just see where the wind takes us type thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think, when I was a kid, that's just how we did vacations. Mm-hmm. We always went to Clearwater, Florida, and, it would be in the daytime, you go to the beach, you play in the water or whatever. About 4:00, you mosey on upstairs, you take a shower, you get ready, we go to dinner, you'll walk around the shops, come back, maybe play some cards, go to bed, do it all again tomorrow. So, I like kind of like both of those experiences. I definitely am more of like, I want a beach vacation, but I want there to be like a mix of activities. I don't want to lay on the beach every day.
Yes. See, I want a beach vacation every once in a while, especially when it's like very bitter cold here. Yes. And I'm like, I got to get out. Yes. Yeah. But I would want a beach vacation where like we sit on the beach for an afternoon.
Yeah.
And then, or like in the evenings. But then outside of that, I would want to be like snorkeling or on a boat.
I like to do those things too, for sure.
Like I want to be adventuring. I want to be wandering around constantly. And anytime I've been on a beach vacation, it's kind of like, let's sit on the beach, then let's go to the shops. Yeah. Then let's go drink. And then like, let's go do it all again. And I can only do that for so long.
I get that.
I could do that for like a weekend. But like when you're spending like $2,000
to go somewhere.
I'm
might
like,
as well see it.
Yes. Then I'm like, I can't just sit here. I spent $2,000 to do this.
Yeah. I think a good mixture is, because you want it to be like leisurely, or at least I do to some extent.
Yeah.
Of like, I want to be like enjoying myself, but also like relaxing a bit. Like this is a break from work. And so, whatever. But yeah.
I guess when I'm like, I could be taking a break from work, it's like, I like to nap on the couch at home.
I see it. That feels like a waste to me. I don't know why, where I'm just like, oh man, I blew it on just like, being here doing this. Like I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That. Well, anyway, in an awful world, absolutely we'd have vacation.
We would have come up with vacation way earlier.
Way earlier.
And here's the thing is I understand that like for a while, people didn't really have jobs. They just kind of like did stuff and they like traded and then, or like you were the blacksmith and like people always needed something. Right. So like you're kind of on.
You can't just be like, well, I'm going to leave for a week and come back.
But I would be like, I am going to leave for a week.
Yeah. I mean,
you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, or I will get an apprentice or like the other blacksmith will do it, like we can trade on and
your
off.
Urgent blacksmith needs.
Right. Like, when you need a sword at 2 a.m. like someone else will do that for you.
Too damn bad. It's going to take me some time to make.
Exactly. Like perhaps you could come back in a week.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So I think that like we would just kind of be like, I just kind of need a break for a second. And there are some jobs that like clearly you cannot get a break from, like being a parent or like being a doctor.
Right.
There are certain things, but even like being a doctor, again, just like there are
other doctors, right?
Kind of a thing. But there are some things you just can't get a break from.
Right.
But like, I just feel like even if travel wasn't a thing, we would be like, hey, you know what? Yes, we have leisure and that would be vacation.
Right.
And like, why don't you just go nap or take a week off and relax and hang with your family and play games and do whatever. Right. And then eventually when we like have carriages, then we could travel at least a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, kind of. I'm sure someone would come up with a boat and get lost at sea and or like put it on a pond and then be like, yay, we made it to the other side of the pond, you know, kind of
we
thing.
Did it.
That could be travel.
We did it.
We're like, wow, it took them all day instead of a week to walk around the pond, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. But
no, I think, I agree that like, I don't know that it would necessarily look like it looks today, because whether we're coming up with planes and trains, I'm not super confident about that.
I don't really understand how a train works. I don't see it.
Coal.
I know, but like, how does that
propel it?
Push it. Yeah.
It's like a jetpack, you know, like.
Yeah, because I don't understand trains, but I get how a jetpack works, Libby.
But it's just think of or like a rocket ship. Just think of the most basic thing.
Yeah.
It's combusting at the bottom, pushing. The force of that is pushing it up into the air. Like a bottle rocket.
I see, that would have been a better. You're just like, I don't understand how trains work. It's like a jetpack. Sure.
Just like the general idea of like, it's much like a car, but like without gasoline. It's like coal that they use to create pressure or steam.
Yeah, I just still don't get it.
And they shoot it this way, which it's an object in motion.
Stays in motion.
Yes, but also for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. You feel me? So this is steam blowing this way. Trains going this way.
Her arms are like jetting out to the sides.
Is it not making sense? You know, it's the same thing with a spaceship when they prop it up and they just, that's what propels it, you know?
Right. But what I'm saying is like, I don't understand the mechanics enough that like, of how we would ever possibly like make that go as something that large.
I mean,
on a track.
I don't either. I'm giving you a very rudimentary explanation of how trains work.
But now that you said steam train,
it's how boats worked.
Well, like I know how that works. But also, all I wanted to say about steam trains is that in Paddington Bear 2, Jonathan, the son, he starts going by J-Dog because he's older now and he like wants to be cool.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he has to like do a steam train thing and they call him J-Dog and he's like, I'm not J-Dog, I'm Jonathan Brown and I like steam trains.
Well, now you know. Steam trains. Now you know. That's
steam
how
trains.
They're powered. Mm-hmm. Or at least that's how they were powered back then. I don't know how they're powered now.
But like the Titanic also used like coal and stuff like that and steam. And I'm just like, that thing is huge.
It is.
How does that work?
I don't know. It's the pressure from the steam builds up and it makes the propellers turn and I don't know.
See, you act like I'm so silly for not knowing and then you're I don't.
Just like
you're like, but jetpacks, Haylie.
Just the basic idea of the pressure is going down, which is pushing the jetpack up or the rocket ship or whatever else you want to use, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, let's just hypothetically, in an awful world, boats exist. Let's just say.
Okay.
I don't know that they do, but I'm just saying.
Steamboats?
Any boat.
All right.
Because I'm just thinking vacation by boat now is a cruise.
Yes.
You've been on a cruise.
I have.
Would you come up with the idea in an awful world? Or would you be into it? Because currently where it stands, you cruise. Mm-hmm. I do not.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get murdered by your husband.
And that's just the weirdest thing to be afraid of on a cruise. You know, normal people are afraid you're going to hit an iceberg or it's going to capsize or whatever. But you're afraid that your very kind docile, loving husband is going to throw you overboard.
They are always kind and loving and docile, and then they just shove them off the side in the middle of the night into the icy
How many times
ocean.
has this happened, do you think?
A million, because every single episode of Dateline I ever watched as a child, I don't know if it was
You're
Dateline.
not watching enough Dateline.
It was, I don't know, whatever murder show my mom was into that week. It was always a woman went missing on a cruise, and then later they find out that their very loving husband has pushed them off the side, and they always show that picture where their like hands are like on their husband's chest, and they take that like fancy picture in their fancy clothes on the side of the boat, and which my mom has with her husband hanging on the wall. Like everybody who's ever been on a cruise has done these pictures, and then that's the picture they show on TV, and then they're like, turns out their very loving husband, who nobody suspected, shoved them overboard.
I have never seen an episode of Dateline like that. And I watched a lot of Dateline.
I'm scarred for life. I don't know why my mother was letting like 8-year-old me watch this every week with her.
It's good to be aware of
will
things.
Not get on a cruise. Also because my mom keeps like going on cruises and then like getting too drunk on
and forgetting to get back on.
Yeah, keeps forgetting to get on.
Yeah, that's
and then,
a problem.
Like takes like rides from random strangers through the ocean. And I'm like, well, that's actually how you get murdered as well. Good on you.
Well, I'll say this. I've only been on one cruise. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really fun way to see a lot of places. Like it's nice that you fall asleep and you're in one place and you wake up and you're in your next destination. And you had a great night's sleep on a very, comfy bed and not like in a rail car or something, right?
That's true.
And it's across oceans, so that's kind of a lot easier. Would I come up with it though? I don't know, not necessarily, because I'm thinking if we have boats, they're not going to be that sophisticated.
Yeah.
And before boats were sophisticated like they are now, that kind of travel was a death sentence for people. People on ships got sick and then they gave those diseases to other people.
That happens now.
I know. And
still.
Yes, that's true.
Ugh. What is it? Like, was it norovirus?
Norovirus is a big one. Hand, foot, and mouth is also a big one that happens on ships.
Why are cruises even still allowed? Why didn't they just ban them after the Titanic?
They're fun. And that really,
Are they? You're just trapped in a breeding ground.
But you're not trapped.
Feels trapped.
You're not. You're going to different ports and stuff.
Yeah, but you also have to spend 2 days on the boat.
A couple days at sea. Yeah. But there's so much to do.
With a bunch of crazy people and all their screaming children.
Not on the cruise I went to. It was really, really nice.
But then everybody's just sick. And then sometimes you get trapped out there and the ship runs out of food, because that happened too. That happened when I was in college, and then that scarred me as well. And
that wasn't my experience with cruising at all. I really enjoyed it.
I'm getting all nervous now.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah, but people will get scurvy and stuff like that from not having access to fresh fruit and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just not sure that I would come up with it. It probably would still be a means to an end type situation and not a leisure thing. But it's such a cool, fun way to travel, in my opinion. I would like to do the cruise line we went on. They do cruises of Japan where they just go around the entire country. And that is so fucking cool. I want to do that. And I want to see all those places. But you know what else I like is that you don't have to worry about lugging your stuff to a separate place. It stays on the ship with you.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about food. If you're I would love to go to Japan, but I don't know if I'm going to like the food there because I don't like fish. But I could just get on the cruise ship and get, something to eat, and it's no big deal. Whereas if you're just traveling, you got to eat whatever's available to you. And there might not be. But
also Japan is
yes. I'm just saying, just as a point of, why I think it's cool and fun is that there's a lot of opportunity for that kind of stuff. So I don't know. But no, I don't think that it would be like that in an awful world, because I'm not coming up with that sophisticated of a ship.
No.
I don't really understand. I can't really wrap my mind around how big the ships are.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Plus, I'm just saying, if one time we had a Titanic style event, I think that would just be the end of cruises. I don't think we would be like, well, let's just come up with new standards and try it again.
Yeah.
Because honestly, people are like, oh, all these things, blah, blah, blah. But then they were like way above the safety standards set for the time. And people don't realize that because safety standards are so different now.
Yeah. But they didn't have enough lifeboats.
Right. But that was still above the safety standards.
That's stupid.
Is the thing.
Yeah.
People like they've kind of rewritten it to make it seem like they were like, well, it's unsinkable, so we don't need them. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
They were well ahead of the safety standards.
Interesting.
And people don't realize that. And so most of the like ship safety standards we have now is because of the Titanic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, I will say like there was so much human error involved in the Titanic.
100%.
That was so avoidable.
Yes.
And nowadays, like the first thing you do when you get on a cruise ship before it even leaves port is you go and like you go to the spot where your group is designated to go in case there's a problem and we need to get on lifeboats. And so they try to make that like very like, this is where you will meet. This is what will happen. Like you need to be fully prepared for if that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. But if it were to, this is where we're going to meet. Everything's going to be in a very orderly fashion. Mm-hmm. The Titanic was a mass chaos.
Yes.
Because people were just straight panicking.
Well, yeah.
And so like now, you know, we have such better, like you said, safety standards, but also just like educating people about like, you know, not panicking and here's how we're going to get out. And we have a whole plan.
Here's my thing. I've met people. I don't trust them.
Well, I mean, I'm like, I think I could figure it out. It would be okay. I can swim. It's fine.
Not in that kind of water, you can't?
Sure, I can.
It's like ice freaking cold.
Well, not on the cruise that I went on in the Caribbean.
Well, yeah, but that's only like when you're like over by the Caribbean. Once you're like, you know.
Where do you think we were going?
Well, you're coming back and the water gets really, really cold. The further you are from like land.
I mean, yeah, it gets colder, but not like really, really cold.
Yes, it does.
I don't think so.
It does.
I've been to Hawaii and off the coast many times.
Yeah, but like once you're out in like the middle.
I mean, but you're not going that far with cruise ships. Still. The Caribbean's all just like clustered closely together. I don't think so. Not like Titanic cold out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, yeah.
Because if you're far enough south, you're close to the equator. Isn't going to matter.
Either way, I'm not doing it.
It's the warmest place on earth.
I'm not doing it in this world or in all.
Hey, that's fine. I am because I want to see all the things that way because I really enjoy it that way. And I like a cruise ship. And I like a beverage package.
I think you should get written, like a written contract from Brian that he won't murder you on that cruise.
We have a no-kill pact.
I love it. I think you should.
Have a no-kill pact. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Just saying, loving men turn into monsters on cruises.
They literally don't.
That's what I've heard. You heard it here first.
I'm going to research how many cruise deaths there have
millions
been at the hands of disgruntled husbands.
Millions.
Oh, millions?
Millions.
This is a Holocaust level event. Huh?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
It's terrifying.
That would have to happen literally every day.
Yes, I think it does.
It doesn't. It does not.
It does.
This is a super irrational fear of yours.
I don't think that it is.
It's very irrational. That is not the thing to be scared of on a cruise ship. That's the last thing to be scared of. Just like know who you marry, I guess.
I feel like I do, but then on a cruise, he could be totally different.
Is my advice. He's shaking his head because he knows.
Is he trying to lull me into a false sense of security?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Clearly, he's not like begging to go on a cruise or anything. So I don't think he wants to murder you in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know.
My suspicion is that if he wanted to murder you, he would have already done it. You know, it's been a decade, so.
That's true. I don't know. I get crazier by the day. Could be coming any minute.
Well, anyway.
Other forms of travel. What do you think? Because no. Are you kidding? You think we could come up with a hot air balloon?
No, I don't know how it works now. No.
It's something with hot air.
Thank you. I had no idea. I'm familiar with the concept. Yes.
It feels like, you remember that day in like gym class and you have that big thing and then everybody...
The big parachute
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
It's like that, but then like...
There's a fire in the middle.
Really big candle inside.
Yes, but I don't...
And a basket.
I don't know how they control it,
I don't really either.
Because that's how on the Amanda show...
Moody's point.
Yes. That's how her mom ended up missing.
I know, which is why I've never been in a hot air balloon.
I don't know how they like steer them or anything.
Now, to me, that is more an irrational fear, is my whole like Moody's point fear of hot air balloons.
Because it's not just like you'd be floating up there forever like it is in the movie.
I know.
Or the show.
Yeah, because eventually it would like run out of propane.
Yeah.
Or
I don't look at me. I don't know. I told you I don't know how it works.
Oh, but you know how jetpacks work.
It's the simple idea of jetpacks makes sense to me. And now it's the opposite idea with hot air balloons.
But it feels like the same idea because it's hot, so which would create steam.
It's not creating steam because there's no water.
I mean,
water has to get hot to create steam. That's how that works. My suspicion is that
scientist Libby.
My suspicion is that whatever they use for the fire creates some sort of gas that lifts the air balloon up. I don't know if that to be a fact.
What if it's just because it's heat? Because heat rises and it's like just trapped by the balloon.
I don't think so. I don't think it's because heat rises. I think it's because it's some sort of lighter gas that's being produced.
Probably.
To cause it to float.
I feel like it's propane. I don't know why I feel like that.
I don't know.
But
I couldn't tell you.
Something. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
It just comes in one of those cans.
Could be
and then
butane.
It's all like,
yeah, I know.
Feels loud.
So that you get, but I talk about rocket launchers and just
I'm not a rocket scientist, Libby.
I know, but the general concept, I'm just saying, it just makes sense. This is the downward force. Force is the...
Yeah.
Anyway,
what about like Oregon Trail, like covered wagon?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I wish you hadn't used that as the example. Because, yikes, a lot of people in the video game,
you die of dysentery.
Yes, you do. A lot. It's going to be the same thing. It's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be leisurely. So our vacations are going to be much more like hillbilly vacations, like camping.
Yeah.
Are
we trash?
Yeah, sort of. Oh. Yes, we are. Yeah. It's going to be hillbilly camping because we cannot travel that far.
No, which sucks because I don't like camping.
I don't really either. It's okay. It just depends.
Yeah. I don't like all the bugs.
It's the bugs. I know.
And I'm allergic to the outdoors.
Yeah, I get that.
Like my skin is too light to be out in the sun.
The thing is like, I don't like that I don't enjoy about camping is like, what do you do in the daytime? You know?
Yeah. You just kind of like sit
around
being hot.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
And then at night there's all the bugs and like,
I know.
Where do you go to the bathroom?
It's really far and you have to take a flashlight to go. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And I'm like, ooh, you know what? We could eat a s'more at home.
Yeah.
And I could like take a shower.
We're not going to have motorized vehicles, so we're just not going to be able to go far.
Yeah.
Which means, though, that probably most of us will live on some sort of navigable waterway.
That's true.
A coast or a river. A navigable waterway. Not a lake.
Yeah, no. More
unless
like
it's like Lake Michigan.
Like a little stream.
A river, yeah. Or a stream or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe we could come up with like the inner tube.
Oh, hell yeah.
Do like lazy river.
Yeah, I love to float.
Yeah.
That sounds great. That's vacation shit.
I could do like a little kayak, canoe, sitch.
That sort of thing I think we could come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a good day to like drink in a canoe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or like stand up paddleboard. That's fun.
Yeah. Seems like more work.
I mean, it is, but it's fun.
Don't really get to drink that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, anyway.
Do
you have anything else to say about vacations?
Just that I wish I was on one right now.
Me too. But unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. And PTO is limited. So
rude.
It is very rude.
I'm going to say it.
Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. We went a little rogue.
Yeah, we really did.
Really a lot of cruise ship talk. And I promise you cruises are really fun. I don't want to hear Haylie's opinion about cruise ships. You're not.
The love of your life is going to die at sea because you're selfish and you keep that door to yourself.
All roads lead back to Rose not leaving enough room on the door, on the wooden door for Jack. No,
if you're poor and handsome and the love of her life, you die. So,
yeah, pretty much.
Because vacation is for the elite.
Well,
living is for the elite.
The Titanic wasn't really a vacation situation, but it's fine.
Feels like it was vacation.
It's like it was just to get from point A to point B, really. It's just to do it in a fancy...
It was like luxuriously.
Well, yeah, for them.
That's vacation.
Yeah, but is it like...
Well, you're not working.
Yeah, but were they working when they were on? I mean, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anywho.
It doesn't matter. The point is, thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Give us a like on there. Hit us with some comments about what you want to hear episodes about. Keep our ideas fresh. And you can listen to us every Friday. We have a new episode. Comes out on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to us there. And we'll see you next time. Until then, we hope your day is simply awful.